There simply aren't any other worlds out there quite like Skyrim. Its frozen tundras, its underground caves full of secret ancient civilizations long forgotten, and forests teeming with life, all that give birth to something that's hard to capture in words alone. And that's because more than anything, Skyrim is a game that seizes a sense of beauty that can't even be described. That feeling you get as you round a bend atop an embodying mountain and the music swells into the scene, as a storm rises on the horizon overlooking a massive and sprawling world all yours to explore. And no matter what you decide to do, no matter which way you choose to venture forth, there's always a story waiting to be told. Random encounters that transition into full quest lines, and flora and fauna alike interacting with one another seamlessly. The world feels alive in ways that many others don't. Every location you go to feels lived in, whether it be in caves or cities alike, and each is masterfully constructed to tell stories on their own through nothing more than the environment. Like seeing the light of a fire illuminate a cave's entrance in the distance, only to find half-eaten skeletons inside, which evokes a sense of wonder and storytelling without even one word being spoken. And there are countless breathtaking environments that litter this game world, from the underground and cosmic Blackreach to the thrones of Sovngarde and the Throat of the World. Each and every location is distinct and mesmerizing in its own way, all painting the picture that this world is one worth exploring. But maybe the greatest accomplishment of this game, and really the entire Elder Scrolls series of games as a whole, is the feelings they inspire in all of us. So many games have never-ending open worlds filled to the brim with fetch quests and locations that serve no other purpose than to facilitate some sort of gameplay element. But Skyrim forgoes all of that, instead focusing on making each scene a moment to its own. The gameplay loop of Skyrim is exploring. It's about the journey, not the destination. Walking around in an open field and hearing the roar of a dragon in the distance pierce through the sounds of a river flowing next to you. That's what real exploration is all about. The beauty in this game doesn't come from the combat or the dialogue, or even in most cases the quests, which I think often are lackluster. It comes from truly feeling like there is a world out there to explore, and one that is home to so many different and amazing environments. And maybe one of the biggest strengths that adds to all of this is the setting, because Skyrim takes place in the northern lands of Tamriel, the continent the Elder Scrolls games take place in, and this means most of the region is covered in snow or blistering cold. It's an almost depressing, yet surprisingly serene feeling that almost no other worlds capture. Every step you take in this world feels foreboding and worrisome, where it feels like at any point you could succumb to the weather, or even worse, a giant monster hiding in the shadows. But beneath all of that is music and set dressing that crafts some of the most memorable moments I've had in games, where simply the beauty and strangely the slowness of the world completely sweep you into the experience. You know, sometimes beauty isn't about having the best graphics or the most advanced lighting engine. Sometimes it's about nothing more than giving the player a sense that there's a world out there worth exploring, that only by slowing down and taking in each environment and the things it has to say can we go on one of the most important adventures in our life. More than maybe any game out there, Skyrim is one that truly encapsulates what a game world should be. Something that, on nothing more than beauty alone, can sustain entire decades worth of stories and fandom that clamor for more. The reason I'm so excited for Elder Scrolls 6 isn't the quests, the writing, the gameplay, or the updated graphics. It's the fact that something might just come along again and create a world so beautiful that despite many of its pitfalls, you can't help but get lost in it. Something Skyrim so elegantly showed us years ago. When you think back to the most memorable moments in your favorite games, what are they? For a lot of people, they're the fast-paced and bombastic set pieces, times of quick action or intensity, and moments where everything comes together. But sometimes, situations like this can be slower paced, more somber, more thoughtful, and in my opinion, even more impactful. And Death Stranding is a game about those moments. Making your way through rain-soaked hills and mountains, past an invisible monster which you can't even see, and towards, well, this. I remember when I first looked out into the distance at Port Knot City and realized just how beautiful of a world Death Stranding really is. An America that has gone through utter tragedy and back and seen its entire landscape swallowed whole by the fear of the unknown. But in this new and scary world, we get to see firsthand the birth of something alluring in its own right. A world full of monsters, sure, but one that places emphasis on the vastness and importance of the universe too. There's so many moments in this game where you will round a bend and be met with a massive and open sprawling wasteland, full of rocks and mossy grass alike, and in each of these key times, a song will start to berate the scene as it takes hold. Music begins to blare as you look out into the world in front of you, on a mission not to kill and become the hero, but instead just to deliver a simple package. Because in this dying world holding on to its last breaths, the beauty and meaning truly comes from the experience itself. Seeing small bands of civilization working their hardest to stay alive and maintain the dream of humanity which we held for so long. Seeing a farm off in the distance spewing out a massive cloud of heat into the sky as rain overhead takes hold and kills everything in its path. In a lot of ways, so many of the scenes in Death Stranding almost make it feel like you are the last man on Earth, walking in a palace that feels more like Iceland in a cold winter's grasp than anything we've come to know in America. And the strange and ominous feelings you get traversing these areas, knowing that there are monsters and weird things happening everywhere, gives you an uneasy feeling that is only broken by the pure wonder of gazing out into the environment. There are no other games out there that focus this hard on the beauty of every scene alone. And quite literally, the entire point of Death Stranding is the antithesis to most other games. The slower moments, the beauty is the point. Soaking in the world and all it has to offer, hearing the faint sounds of an animal in the distance when you felt like you had heard nothing for so long before, or uncovering the mysteries to this world and what happened, and the core of how what you are seeing in front of you is even happening in the first place. Not only is the narrative to this game a complete mystery full of twists and turns, but even more impressively, so is the world. A world that begs to be appreciated and explored, as deep as it is expansive. Not because it has endless side quests or forts you have to clear of enemies, but because it really just gives you the impression that it has a story to tell all its own. You know, for all the open worlds out there that are really good looking, a lot of them forget the real beauty of art lies in the deeper meaning behind it all. The sunsets, the rainbows, and the echoes of sounds across multiple massive mountain ranges in Death Stranding aren't so magical because of how good they look and sound. It's because throughout every moment you play this game, the stage is being set to make moments like this all that more powerful. Moments that evoke a feeling within your soul, songs and chimes that pierce our hearts, and scenery that inspires greatness. Because while Death Stranding is a lot more boring than a lot of other beautiful game worlds out there, it hits at the core of what truly makes art meaningful in the first place, and captures emotions that only an experience like this could uniquely do. And that's why it's one of the most beautiful game worlds ever dreamed up. Beauty doesn't always come from colorful and upbeat lighting or vast open plains of wilderness. Sometimes beauty comes from within, or even from the darkest places in our humanity. Broken down and graffitied sidewalks, trash and despair littering your entire field of view, and most importantly, a heart beneath all of that tragedy that serves as a beacon of light amongst all the hate. Cyberpunk 2077 is one of the most beautiful game worlds of all time, not because it has amazing graphics, ray tracing, and architecture, but because each place in this world tells a story that gnaws at the core of what it means to be human. More than maybe any game out there, the world, the city of Cyberpunk is its own character, one full of violence, tragedy, but also beauty. From the rolling and dusty plains of the Badlands to the chaos at City Center, each location in Cyberpunk 2077 feels lived in and like it's composed of a history all to its own. You can sense a concentration of wealth in some locations, while others are characterized by struggle at every turn. And beneath every building, atop every roof, are stories of harrowing betrayal and the lowest points of the human condition. There's death, murder, and ritualistic offerings around every bend, and it really gives off the impression that this is a world born and bred by destruction and disarray. But as you peel back the layers to this universe more, you discover that it isn't about how corporations ruin the world or about how everyone is out for themselves. It's about those characters and the people you meet. About how despite all of the hardships that everyone has become accustomed to, that there's a deep sense of humanity and love still at the heart of many people. Looking into the eyes and souls of the characters you meet on this journey as they suffer some of the greatest hardships known to man, you get the sense that there's a beauty to this game that's almost hard to put into words. Sitting with Carrie Eurodyne on his boat sifting through the waves, or holding Judy against your chest as she cries in pain at losing the one she held most close. What really makes the world of Cyberpunk so beautiful is that it turns a mirror onto our own and makes us ask the questions we all ought to in our real lives. And now with Phantom Liberty 2, the best zone in the game has come to life, where in Dogtown simply walking around is an experience in itself. Buildings that reach into the sky, surrounded by rundown shacks and shanty towns that lend themselves as homes to the less fortunate. More than maybe any game in my life, Cyberpunk is the one that made me appreciate all of this the most. There were so many times in my playthrough where I would just stop to take it all in, walking slowly in every location and just watching the people, the city come to life, where I listened to the sounds and took inspiration from the verticality of it all and the insanely detailed and thoughtful architecture. There is no other game that even comes close to how real this city feels, with all the back alleys and hidden rooftops and ways to get to places. It truly is the most breathtaking single city ever put in a game. And with path and ray tracing included, this means every bit of light refracts and cascades across each scene with extreme precision, and it makes every little detail pop. Each new location, item, and character looks so much more grounded and real. There are moments in this game where you will be caught off guard by just how amazing it looks from a purely graphical standpoint, and it really adds to the immersion in a way so many other games don't. I know a lot of people talk about how gameplay matters more than graphics, and while I agree, I think graphics and art design can play such a key role in making a world feel immersive and real, and thus creating a sense of awe that otherwise would be missing, and Cyberpunk has this in spades. And throughout it all, you're accompanied by one of the greatest soundtracks ever, where simply driving around hundreds of miles an hour through busy streets and listening to heavy metal rock music is just another day at work. So when those slower moments with characters do hit as you look out onto a sunset, over a river or atop a mountain, it hits all that harder and reminds us that even in the most twisted and terrifying places, ones full of hatred and sorrow, there's still a beauty beneath it all that can light a fire within our souls unlike anything else out there. A beauty you have to play to understand.